So today we're going to talk about the clean in place pump, priming it, troubleshooting it. First thing I want you to do is go right to the front of the machine. We're going to get into cleaning here in just a minute, but I want to give you a tip that'll help very quickly with the troubleshooting. First thing you want to do is, if you're not pulling out of the jug, you want to come around out front. And if you still have water dispensing, even though you're not pulling out of the jug, more than likely you're going to go right to the white solenoid on top of the manifolds. It's going to be stuck open and your water pressure is overpowering what you're seeing. So we're going to take you to the side of the machine. We're going to look up at the white solenoid on the very top of the machine. This more than likely will be the culprit. A quick check would be, reach to the back of the machine, disconnect the water, and if it shuts off there, then we know that that white solenoid's been stuck open. The other part of that is, if you're in the cleaning process, which we are not right now, but if you are in the cleaning process and you disconnect this, and now you still get water coming out or cleaner coming out, that tells you that the CIP pump is working. The whole problem was why you're not sucking out of the jug is that white solenoid, the water pressure is higher than what the pump can generate. And all you have to do is shut off the water, replace this white solenoid, and you're complete. So we're going to go into cleaning now, and we're going to look at a couple of other things that it might be. So we're going to get into the cleaning mode, and we're going to go into the weekly cleaning. And you can see here, this says it's overdue. So what we're going to need to do at this point is open the door, so that we can connect our cleaning hose. One of the things I recommend is that you rinse off that connector a little bit so that it slides in to push down on the fitting. Make sure your connector is seated, and then put the little strainer down in the bucket. Now, I'm using a bucket just because it's a little more photogenic than what you'd see with your regular container. You can actually see inside the bucket and make sure that we're down. So we're going to go back now. If we start in the cleaning process and I get water out, like we said, but I'm not sucking out of the jug, then at that point we know to go to the white solenoid. The other thing that we want to check would be, if there's no water coming out, say we're in cleaning now, there's no water coming out, the first thing I want to check is my input fitting on the hose. And I've got a spare here. You notice there's no O-ring on here. And if that O-ring is nicked, cut, or gone, like in this case, then it will not pull any cleaner out of the jug. And there we are. So we're going to want to replace that O-ring with a new one. And like I did before, you're going to rinse that fitting with the O-ring on it and then click it into place. Now we're clicked in place, so now we're going to check. And what we have found, we're going to kind of jump ahead here. We've gone into the weekly cleaning. But now what we want to do is troubleshoot the CIP pump. So when we start this, at this point, if we start and we don't hear anything running, we've got to check the CIP pump. Now I've got the side panel off of the CIP pump. If we are still not pumping, but now we're not getting water out, what we can do, there's a couple of things that we can do. We've already checked this connection. We've made sure that the O-ring is good. We can actually use this slide connector and remove the hose. And now we can see if this will pump. And what you're going to want to do now is get a cup, and with this fitting loose, start the cleaning process. Once we get water out of here, we have primed the pump, and then at that point, we can put the slide connector back in, put the fitting back in, and slide that. Once we've done that, it should work. So now we're going to check and see if we can prime the CIP pump. We've gone through all of the other steps that we've discussed. I'm into troubleshooting, and I am going to turn on the CIP pump, and if we can hear it run, we should be able to prime it through this opening here. I'm going to stick a cup underneath it. And if we still don't get anything coming out of the CIP pump, we're going to have to replace the CIP pump. So earlier we found that the CIP pump wasn't running, and we're going to complete the troubleshooting on it. And what I found when I came here was that we didn't have power to the CIP pump coming from the control board. So we're going to have to troubleshoot the wires. But what we did was we found a wire was off over here. So we put the wire back on, made sure everything's secure over here. We're going to come back, double check the power. And we now have our DC voltage 24 volts coming to the pump. So we can connect the pump again. And now we can see if the pump will run. And what we know now is if the pump runs and we suck out of the jug, our problem was electrical. If the pump still doesn't run, then the problem is in the pump itself, and it's going to need to be replaced. So we're going to connect our line back up again. Make sure we're down in the bucket. And we're going to activate the CIP pump. And to do this, we also have to turn on product valve number 1 so we get something out to make sure it's running. And you can see we are getting the cleaner coming out of the CIP pump. Now the CIP pump is doing what it's doing, and we can actually see that we were lowering in the bucket. So we have primed and troubleshot the CIP pump.